What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary's Inside Sprout. The podcast about trees and other related topics.
You okay, Alex? Are you forgetting it?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to be doing here?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hi, welcome.
I zoned out for a second.
Oh, we're doing a podcast right now. People are listening right now.
My name is Alex Crowson. I'm one of your hosts. And of course, over there on the big green couch, we've got a Casey Clapp on our hands.
Bonjour, Alex. I need to stop you right there. I'm pissed off.
I know. What are you pissed off about, Casey?
Well, first off,
what
everyone,
are you angry about?
We are covering anger today.
Yeah.
So, yes, see that. But I rode my bike up, and we here record in the nice city of Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I know their code quite well as a historic code enforcer. Turns out that there is a group of trees right across the street, somewhat across the street from where you live, from where we record here, and those trees are cork oaks. They have been topped now for the third time. And I have called them in at least twice.
Yeah.
Because they're one of my favorite trees. It's these beautiful cork oaks that are growing along this very busy road. And it was a new development that made a couple shops. They planted their oak trees, and then the oak trees, as trees do, grew up over the top of their signs on the front of their business. Mm-hmm. So they have come back every several years to just lop those trees off at the right height. And they have been called in for a violation each time. So the property owner has been told, you may not top your trees. Slap on the wrist.
Doing it
Second
again.
time, slap on the wrist. Yeah. So I'm just like enraged because they actually had to replant a new one because they topped it last time so bad that they had to remove the tree and plant a new tree.
Wow.
And these are awesome trees. They're cork oaks. They're like doing really well in a place that does not look hospitable for a tree.
Yeah.
Yet these trees are surviving. And they're getting topped all the fucking time, and I'm so over it. I'm so mad with these property owners. And, of course, they hired just Joe Schmo off the street. Like, no actual arborists are going to do this. All the arborists they called probably said, no, we're not going to do that. A, you don't top trees. It's bad, fundamentally. B, it's illegal in the city of Portland outright. No tree can be topped.
This was news to me that it's illegal to top a tree, even if it's on your private property, which this is not. But
no, this is a public property tree, which makes it worse. You're affecting us, me, everyone else who walks along that street.
Yeah.
So this is public property trees that are being topped because these property owners can't get the fucking message that you can't do that. They insist that you must be able to see their stupid signs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to go to any of those businesses ever again. I hate them, and I'm going to tell them why. I'm going to go to each one and say, I'm not coming back because your property owners went and topped these trees for the third time. You need to tell them to put their saws away.
Well, you called it in as an emergency, 911.
No. Tree emergency. Excuse me. I don't want anyone coming at me for being like, you called 911 because you're doing that. No, a tree emergency.
You called Pine 11.
I did. I called Pine 11, and they were like, okay, we're going to figure this one out. We're going to see what to do with it. And I'm like, the city used to allow you to call in an emergency if you saw an active violation.
Yeah.
Then they would send out an inspector. That inspector would then go and say, okay, what's up? And basically say, oh, yeah, you're not allowed to do this. No question. You don't have to, like, search down. Well, I didn't know. Like, that's what happens afterwards.
Will they follow up with you?
Nah, probably not.
If something happens, can you call back later?
I probably could. I mean, I'm on the Urban Forestry Commission, so I could call the city forester and say, what
do you know who I am?
Yeah, I should.
Well, Casey, I would love to let you talk about this all day, but we must move on, Case, to anger, ironically, and the Jeffrey pine. Casey's fishing his bag. Oh, it's just a water bottle.
I got a water bottle.
He's just trying to stay hydrated.
Yeah, sorry.
Today we're talking Jeffrey pine. Pinus, I'm going to say Jeffrey-I.
Very well done.
Because I looked at it. Casey saw me look at it.
That's the one. Also, you know what? I think you were going to get it right.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But we got to talk about the Jeffrey pine. After a quick little cool down, take a walk around the block. We'll be right back with Inside Sprout. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary's Inside Sprout. Today we're talking Jeffrey pine, and we're angry about it. Well, Casey, let's imagine. Casey's crying. That we're walking through.
Let's all imagine Casey's crying.
Oh, it's really happening. Let's imagine, as we do every episode, Casey, that we are Jeffrey pine. I want to say that we are on the west coast of America.
Yes.
I'm saying Northern California.
Yeah.
And we come across some Jeffrey pine. Let's ID this tree.
All right, Alex. Well, I'm happy that you asked. Jeffrey pine is a really beautiful tree.
Fabulous.
If you have ever seen a tree and you've thought to yourself, that looks like a ponderosa pine, and you were in Northern California, very well may have been a Jeffrey pine.
Okay.
Now, Jeffrey pine is one of those big, tall, classic Western pines that grow at the high elevations in the Sierra Nevada, mostly. You'll also find it, however, growing in the Siskiyous and Klamath region on the serpentine soil there.
Serpentine. Remind me what that means.
Serpentine is essentially a ultramafic soil. So it's got a lot of weird chemicals and a lot of heavy metals.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's essentially a piece of the mantle that was scraped up and pushed up and landed where it is today.
Cool.
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't familiar with the Earth's geography,
geology?
Geology? Yeah. Mantle's below the crust. So it's like deep Earth got pulled up to the top.
Interesting. Scary.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting, though. It's pretty cool how that kind of happens. And there's a couple different places around.
It's touched by Hades.
It's touched by Hades and Poseidon because it came from under the ocean.
There you go.
That's where Jeffrey pine grows.
All right.
And it also grows all the way down into California. So it essentially follows the kind of ridge of the mountains that goes all the way to Baja, California. So right down almost to the middle of Baja.
That's a long stretch. Casey's got mustache troubles.
Everything's going wrong today. My God.
I've never seen you in such a state.
I'm quite flummoxed.
Are they poking your nose?
No, they're tickling it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, same thing. All right. So anyway, like I said, a tall mountain tree. It grows to be over 100 feet tall. Usually somewhere around 120 is what you can kind of expect.
Respectable.
But it also stays pretty small. It can kind of grow in a wide range of habitats. Growing up in the mountains, mostly at higher elevation, tends to be a very straight, perfectly formed conifer-like tree.
Cool.
But if you put it up in the really exposed areas, you'll tend to find it stay a little bit smaller, kind of create this little clump of a rounded canopy on an old tree at high elevation kind of thing. Yeah, it is really one of those spectacular like Western pines, very similar to the southeastern pines and kind of the iconicness of it. Is that a term?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I will go with it. Either way, so it's an iconic tree, to say the least. But like I said, most people think that it's a ponderosa pine. So they usually would say, oh, yeah, it's a ponderosa pine. If you know, then you'd know that it's a Jeffrey pine. But the differences between them are slight, to say the least. But when you really start looking, you can really start kind of pulling them out.
Okay.
One of the things is that Jeffrey pine has a little bit longer needles, like well about a foot or so.
Wow.
Is a fairly decent size for it.
Okay.
A little bit less would be more average. And they are a little bit blue-green as opposed to being a very kind of yellowish, greenish green with a ponderosa pine. But they still also get the same kind of bark that is like a yellow-brown, cinnamon, like kind of orangish color. And then as it gets older, it develops those really beautiful puzzle piece-like flakes that are on the outside.
So beautiful.
It really is. They're just absolutely stunning. And another thing is that if you go not on the main stem, go out the branch, go to the very tip of a pine twig is what's called a candle.
Candle?
Yeah. Have you heard this before? Have I brought it up?
I don't think so.
Nice.
I love this idea.
It is, it's the bud, essentially, is the best way to think about it. And the bud on a Jeffrey pine is not resinous at all.
Resinous?
Yes, so it doesn't have any resin just like covering it. So it doesn't look like it's sticky or globby or anything like that. Which I didn't know. I had no clue that they were so specifically different. But for some reason, I had heard something like I had always looked to see if I could figure out a difference.
Yeah.
But I never was like, meh, whatever. Turns out I think I was always looking at a ponderosa pine.
Oh.
Never actually found a Jeffrey.
How are these two different?
Yeah. And then I couldn't find anything. And I was frustrated. So in this case, the Jeffrey pine, it has like these nice kind of little hairs that are on like these little scales that cover this bud, which is the candle. So it's the very tip of the twig.
Casey, really quick, do they call it a candle because it kind of looks like a candle flame.
Yes, and
Okay.
it's actually a reference to a couple other species, not this one in particular, where the bud is actually tall. It's like an inch or more in height, and it's usually covered in these white filaments, these white like hairs. Sometimes they have resin on it, which also gives it a white color.
Very flame-like.
And it also looks like a melting candle if you have all this resinous, waxy-looking stuff coming off.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they would call it a candle as a means of just saying that's kind of what it looks like.
Interesting.
Now, some trees, they're very long. They're different colors. Some are very skinny. Some are short. Some are more triangular or more like a kind of Taj Mahal bud-like top. But in this case, our Jeffrey pine, it has no resin at all. Just these kind of white filaments on these like orangish scales.
Interesting.
And then if you look at a ponderosa pine, covered in resin.
Okay.
All sorts of resin all over the top.
It just kind of looks like it was dipped in a bucket of resin.
Yeah, exactly. And then it dried and became crusty.
Cool.
Yeah. So, otherwise, they look exactly the same. They are tall growing trees. They have these excurrent growth forms, which means it's like a triangle on a stick when they're young. As they get older, they become a little bit more rounded topped because they lose the top and the branch kind of moves up and kind of slows the growth going up. So the growth growing out kind of catches up.
I like that look, by the way. It always reminds me of like a feather duster. Or like a duster. I have one in my closet, like this big green, like or like in the film industry called a dead cat, like a thing you put over a microphone.
Okay,
to cut the wind down.
I see what you're saying. Wait,
I love that shape.
The shape of a dead cat is the shape of Jeffrey pine, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Cool.
I can take that to the bank.
Take it to the bank, baby. So the twigs, and this is something we're going to be talking about. When they're crushed, they have a pleasant odor.
Oh,
Just wanted to share that with you.
Odor. Okay.
Odor. Now, the thing that most people love about this is the cones.
They sort of are like clip art cones. Like they are the quintessential.
Nice, Alex. Yes.
Like draw a pine cone.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like a Jeffrey pine cone.
That's exactly it. Like that is 100% exactly it.
And I suppose a ponderosa pine cone too, which they use for bags of potpourri around Christmas time.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And that is what I think is, I don't know. It's one of my favorite things is like they are the standard cone and everyone consistently will get the ponderosa pine and the Jeffrey pine confused because their cones look very similar.
Okay.
And they are both those like the standard quintessential clip art cone.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. But what I love about them is that they are just a little bit bigger. They're not only a little bit bigger, but they are just a little bit more dense. So imagine taking a ponderosa pine cone and you make it a little bit taller, a little bit wider, and you add more scales per cone.
Interesting.
So they look a little bit denser.
Sure, fuller.
A little fuller, exactly. And the really thing, what it was the French word for, and the big point.
The piece de resistance.
There we go. The piece de resistance is that Jeffreys are gentle because they have recurved spines.
Recurved spines.
Exactly. Okay. Whereas ponderosa, they curve outwards.
You're talking about the armed umbo.
I'm talking about the armed umbo.
All
exactly.
Right.
So if you catch a ponderosa pine, all of the little prickles at the end of the umbo will hurt.
Sure.
They will poke you.
Yep.
Jeffrey pine is not the same. They curve inwards. So if you catch a Jeffrey pine cone, there is nothing to poke you because they go either down or slightly in.
Very good.
So they don't get your hands.
That's lovely. What
That's
a nice
how you know.
design choice.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they are gentle Jeffreys. So people use the term gentle Jeffrey.
Oh.
And I think that's adorable.
That's great. You know what I love about these cone scales?
Yeah.
They look like little cobra heads.
Little cobra heads.
Don't they?
Okay, I'll take that. Let me just navigate here to a little picture.
Sure,
okay.
like look at the profile, from the side there.
Yeah, all right. I see.
Like the tops of cobras' heads.
Yeah, and they're kind of like just about to get you. Okay, yeah, I'm with you. I like that.
Single tooth.
So that's essentially it.
Great cone, yeah.
This is the thing though about these little trees. The Jeffrey pine looks almost exactly like a ponderosa pine. Now, I started doing a bunch of research. You also may know I wrote a book about how to identify trees.
I do know this.
I found something that I'm so sad about because I didn't find it before I wrote the book.
Say that you're angry.
I'm angry about this, Alex. I found via looking at the Jeffrey Pine on my favorite, the 𝘗𝘪𝘯𝘶𝘴 database.
Yes.
Which you guys got to go read this. There's so much there.
Sperm.com.
Yeah, this is conifers.org. And he found a fabulous resource that's from, it's just old internet, like HTML style. And it's plants of Southern California, Pinus jeffreyi and Pinus ponderosa. And now they say Pinus ponderosa variety pacifica. That is a little bit outdated, but we're not going to worry about it. They go through and absolutely go into the most insane detail about how to tell these two trees apart. Now, the reason that we are covering Pinus jeffreyi today on the anger episode initially came from an episode request by one Cassandra Lamb.
Cassandra Lamb.
Hello, Cassandra. The TLDR, please do an episode on Pinus jeffreyi. There are so many fun rabbit holes from who smells better and are we even cousins and who are you anyway? IDs, mis-IDs, the drama is real.
Wow.
That's the too long didn't read, so we're not going to read the rest.
Great.
But Cassandra goes on to say, hey, here's all these things, and I'm very excited about this tree, and gave some cool little sources. So I was like, you know what? This is great. And you know what? We're gonna need to address this at some point.
Wow, exciting.
You and I have talked about trees for a long time now.
4 years.
We talked about the ponderosa pine like early on. I think it was like episode 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah.
Like quick, right off the bat, we got to cover this fabulous tree.
Yeehaw, I think was the name of it.
That's exactly what it was. So we have talked about this, and then throughout the years, people have messaged us about this or that, and we've talked about smells. Does this smell like that? Does that smell like this?
Yeah.
And there is a consistent, thread that I have noted that people are in one camp or they're in another camp of what the ponderosa pine or the Jeffrey pine smells like.
I will just say that is a great little microcosm of the internet.
It totally is. It makes my day.
You have to choose a side.
Yeah, you can't be one place or the other.
No, you can't see that both sides may have good points. You have to choose a side, damn it, or die.
Yeah, that's it. Like you got to do it. In the Game of Thrones, you live or you're a ponderosa pine.
That's right.
It's one of the two.
You smell like vanilla or you smell like butterscotch.
Or you smell like death. So I decided that we're going to cover anger, talking not about topping trees across the street, because I think we've already talked about topping trees, actually, so we can't do it.
Okay.
We get to talk today about the anger that people feel towards someone else saying it smells wrong.
Sure.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Great.
So it's, makes you angry. Today, you're going to get really angry if you disagree with me, but sorry, I'm right this time.
Wow.
There is no more disagreement because I'm going to tell you what it is.
Okay.
And if you disagree, that's because you smell things and they trigger different things in your brain.
Basically you're saying if you disagree, you're wrong.
I'm saying, yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Can I quote you on that?
I think you can. Yeah.
Out of context?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, you do whatever you need. Yeah. You guys take that soundbite. Here, let me give you a clean one. If you disagree with me, Casey Clapp, you're wrong.
Perfect.
Okay, just keep that. Everyone take that. So real quick, here's a couple facts I want to share with the Jeffrey pine.
All right, hit me.
And this is all going to ideally come together. Jeffrey pine grows at high elevations. They don't really like to hang out at lower elevations. That's not their style. They have the heaviest seeds of any winged pine.
Is that so?
That is so.
How heavy?
I don't actually know the weight. I could probably look it up quickly, but that dead air would be
15 pounds?
No.
19 pounds?
No. Seeds.
23, 40 pounds?
More something like, I don't know, an ounce?
Okay.
Sorry. I think actually we need to go to grams for this one. It's pretty small.
3 grams.
Yeah, something like 3
wow,
grams.
so heavy.
It's really heavy.
I know that it's
only chipmunks.
It's relative.
So it's very much there are other species that have heavier seeds, specifically the coulter pine and the ghost pine and the Tory pine.
Sure.
Now, all of those trees, along with the Jeffrey pine, are in the subspecies or the subsection, I guess, of Pinus 𝘗𝘫𝘧𝘧𝘳𝘦𝘺𝘃𝑔𝑒.
𝘗𝘫𝘧𝘃𝑔𝑒.
Yes, I believe that is correct. Either way, it's the subsection for those big pines.
I know Sabiniana.
Yeah.
What is that?
So that is the ghost pine.
Oh, okay.
Then you also have coulter, which is Coulterii, the coulter pine, and the Torrey pine, which is Pinus torreana, I think. I think that's what it is.
That sounds right.
And it grows down in a tiny little space down in Southern California. The coulter pine grows mostly in Southern California, up in the Sierra Nevada. In Northern California, that's the ghost pine. It grows all the way up to very, 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 very southern Oregon, all around essentially the ring of higher mountains around the Central Valley, California. Jeffrey pine grows all the way down on either side of the great Central Californian Valley, but it loves the Sierras and the lower Cascades.
Okay.
So that is the only spot that you're really going to find the Jeffrey pine. All of those trees are very closely related. They are in a sister clade to the Ponderosae. Or the I think it's Ponderosae, something like that. This other subsection of the subgenus Pinus.
Wow. This is like you're describing the Targaryen dynasty.
Totally. This is exactly what
like,
it is.
What the fuck? I'm already...
No, it is so hard to figure all these things out.
Wow.
Because they are consistently in a state of, wait, who's who? What's what?
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
Remember when we talked about ponderosa pine, and we said, well, here's the thing. There's actually 3 different species of ponderosa pine.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, this is on that same level.
Okay.
And the only reason that it is now becoming a new thing is that the recent, recently, taxonomists have been saying, hey, we got to figure out these ponderosa pine. Everyone would just call this tall, beautiful barked tree a ponderosa pine. We got to sort this out.
Yeah.
So people used to always say, well, ponderosa pine, Jeffrey pine, they're super closely related. They look exactly the same. Like there's no way these are not very closely related trees. So forever, we always said these trees are exactly the same. But then someone figured it out. They said, well, actually, these are different trees. It's named after this guy, John Jeffrey, who's the Jeffrey pine of Jeffrey, or he's the Jeffrey of Jeffrey pine.
Sure.
So people said, okay, there are different trees. We've known this for a long time, but we always thought they were very closely related.
Okay.
Now, I just told you they're in these 2 different subsections, right? That is what first led people to say, okay, hold on, something is up here. This tree looks exactly like this other tree. But apparently, we've learned in like 2021 is the most recent study that finally said, here's the facts, here's what it is. And so people until 2021 refused to believe that these were not very closely related trees.
And they are not.
They are not. Ponderosa pine, Jeffrey pine, they are sister clades. So they are like, I don't know, the Portuguese and the Spanish, you know?
Okay.
Like, yeah, you go back far enough, they are related, but they are different. They are not right next to each other on the tree of life.
Interesting.
They are on adjacent branches.
Okay.
So the big thing that people always point to when they're looking at the Jeffrey pine versus the ponderosa pine is the smell between the fissures in the bark. I should say the fissures are the things in between the bark. So you know what I mean.
the little crevices in the bark.
Yeah.
That they smell like something.
Exactly.
Okay. What do they say? They say they smell the same?
Some people would say they smell quite different, and they specifically do smell quite different. I shouldn't say one. Many people think, okay, this smells like vanilla or butterscotch or turpentine or bananas or something sweet, maybe kind of cinnamony, but not really cinnamony, the color cinnamon. It just smells like the sweet thing over here.
A little caramelized.
Yeah. And then the other one smells like gasoline, turpentine. It smells very intense. Okay. It smells like something that's like a stingy, chemically kind of thing.
Interesting.
So these are the things that people would say.
Okay.
And no one could tell me, does this smell like this or that? It would go back and forth.
Okay.
So some people would say, oh no, Jeffrey pine smells sweet and vanilla-like. Ponderosa pine does not. When I first learned ponderosa pine, they said specifically it smells like vanilla.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, great. So I just remembered that. I could tell them apart back then. Well, actually, I don't even know if they taught me Jeffrey pine back then. So I could just tell that this was a ponderosa pine. I didn't need to worry about what it smelled like. I could just look at it. So when I started to try to get a little bit kind of better, I was like, okay, I'm going to sort this out. Which one smells like which? Did all the research in the world, never quite found anything. And with this Plants of Southern California, they show you a bunch of ways to tell the trees apart, and they give you a reliability rating.
Wow.
So you could look at the sap chemistry, and that gives you a 98% reliability rating.
Okay.
Same thing with needle color. And then vegetative buds goes down to 95.
Okay.
So one is resinous, like I said earlier, the other's not, so on and so forth. So you go all the way down to where it is about 70 or 80%, 70% bark crevice odor. And that's how you can start to tell these trees apart.
Oh, God. Bark crevice odor.
70% reliability rating.
Wow.
And telling them apart.
Amazing.
So here's the real thing. Ponderosa pine, just like almost every other pine species you can think of, produces terpenes in their oleoresin,
Okay.
which is essentially the resin that comes out of the wood.
Just define terpenes for me.
I shall, Alex.
All right.
A terpene is a chemical. It's a chemical that is produced by plants, most often conifers, more specifically pines and spruces, which are very closely related, you may recall.
Is it kind of an insecticide?
No, well, I mean, it would be for the tree, but it also like seals things up. So it's this plant-based hydrocarbon that does a lot of different things inside the tree. So it helps with modulation of plant growth and all these different things inside the cells. Like it's this little chemical that they make, but it works inside the cells for certain purposes. But it also is a defensive thing. So you wound the tree, it bleeds out these resins from the wood.
Okay.
They help to seal it up and keep insects and disease and fungus out.
Okay.
So that's kind of what it really focuses on. But don't worry about the kind of particulars. Terpenes are the base of what makes turpentine.
Yes.
So you know what turpentine is? You smell this?
Yeah, you use it to get rid of paint.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well done. That's exactly what it is.
Smells like gasoline
It does. It smells...
or nail polish
Yes,
remover.
nail polish remover. Way better. I'm happy you said that and
Great.
corrected it. Delete whatever you just said. So,
No.
Oh, God dang it,
I'm not
Alex.
afraid to be wrong.
Fine. Well, you're going to be
Clearly.
wrong in a second.
Oh.
Like I said, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.
Okay.
Turpentine.
I kind of feel like I have to disagree with you just
Yeah,
to
you
make
gotta
some
do it.
drama.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thanks, Alex. You're the hero we needed.
Thanks.
So turpentine comes from, well, we also call it, I should say, spirit of turpentine, oil of turpentine, terebinthine or terebinth, terebinthine.
Terebinth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I shouldn't say there's always the "ine" or the "ine" at the end. So terebinthine, terebinthine.
Terebinthine. Okay. Terebinthine.
Yes, I know. There's probably some better way for me to say this. Regardless, it is the distillation of resins harvested from living trees.
Gotcha.
Specifically, pine trees.
Okay.
In the South, if you remember when we talked about the longleaf pine, what you would get from those pines is turpentine, but you cut the resin would come out. You would take that resin, which is filled with terpenes, and you would distill it to get turpentine. Turpentine, classically used as a naval store. That was one of the big things that we talked about with the longleaf pine.
A naval store?
Yes, it's essentially used in making ships.
Okay.
And you'd also use it to, like, you get tar and you get resin, all these plant-based things that you would use to seal a ship and make sure that everything is set.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that comes from these pines. So slash pine, loblolly pine, all those southern pines, really important. You can also get that from ponderosa pine. During the Civil War, the South, where all these pine trees are, revolted against the North and the rest of the country, and they could no longer, in the North, get the terpenes. Rather, they couldn't get the turpentine from the terpenes from the southern pines.
Okay.
So they ended up going out and looking west. They would get these things from ponderosa pine. Ponderosa pine makes terpenes. So they're like, great, this is wonderful. We're going to do this. And then in California, of all places, why California? They ended up getting a bunch of kind of explosive turpentine.
Wow.
And they're like, what the hell is going on here? Why is this like freaking out?
It's like flammable?
Oh, it's all flammable, yeah.
Okay.
But this one was like explosive flammable.
Wow.
It wasn't just like, let's just like, you light it on fire and it kind of goes, puzz, burns.
It's probably all the TNT residual they used in the mines during the gold rush.
This is essentially the same thing, Alex. No, it's not quite. Never mind. Yeah, a different time.
That was a while later.
Yeah, well,
or earlier.
It was earlier, yeah, because 1865 versus 49.
That's true.
So,
Oh, great. Now my joke is way funnier that you picked it apart.
well, everyone needs to know. So, they were trying to figure out, like, okay, what the hell is going on here? And they found that the Jeffrey pine, remember, looks exactly like the ponderosa pine, is producing something quite different. It was producing normal heptane, or N-heptane. Heptane.
All right.
Now, heptane is essentially another kind of weird chemical that trees produce.
Terpene adjacent.
This is like terpene adjacent. That's a fair way to say it, although it is chemically quite different. So chemically different that it's essentially like gasoline.
That's what my therapist says about me sometimes.
Oh, that you're just chemically quite different. Yeah, sorry, man. I don't know how to explain it. It's just chemically different.
Why do I feel this way? You're just chemically different.
You're just chemically different. There's don't worry about it. That's what I'm going to say to my children. I'm sorry. You're just chemically different.
Papa, why do I love trees so much?
Well,
it's probably the normal heptane.
It's probably the normal heptane in your skin. Yeah, so apparently what they would find is that if you misidentified this tree and you took the resin from it, you would not get terpenes, you would get heptane.
Okay.
If you got heptane, then you would start to distill it and create an explosive mixture with deadly consequences. Apparently this killed some people when they learned, oh, this is a different tree. This is a different tree that has a completely different chemical composition of its resin.
Oh, so they're like, this is so curious. Our alchemist just blew himself sky high. Because last week he was working on some ponderosa pines and it all went great. And this week he's working on some ponderosa pines and he got blown sky high.
What happened?
Why are these ponderosa pines different from those ponderosa pines with not knowing that they were Jeffrey pine?
Exactly. Now,
wow.
I believe that Jeffrey pine was known as a different species before this.
Okay.
But where they either intermix or sometimes they can hybridize.
Yeah.
So you can find like either groves that have both trees right next to each other, or you can find where they have actually hybridized and create this kind of intermix.
Here's a great, oh my God, I have such a perfect visual analogy for this.
Give it.
Imagine taking a color of paint.
Okay.
And then taking that same color paint and adding a drop of white paint to it.
Okay.
And mixing that. And you have these two side by side.
Yeah.
You can on a good day, you can barely tell a difference.
Yeah.
Right? Now take a little bit of each of those, equal parts of those two paints, mix those together.
Yeah.
And then ask somebody, which side does this third paint come from?
Yeah, okay, yeah, there you go. That's a hybrid, yeah. I think that's good.
But the paint colors are, the point of my analogy is that the paint colors are so similar anyway.
Yeah.
It's not like adding blue and green.
No, yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's like adding dark red and slightly darker red.
Yes, exactly. So it's so hard to tell them apart.
That's my whole point.
I think that's a beautiful point, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that is I think you're spot on.
Thanks.
And they call this it's a cryptic speciation.
Cryptic speciation.
Yes.
So many great terms.
And we've talked about this a few times before, where you have two species that look almost exactly the same, but they are completely unrelated.
Yeah.
In this case, both of these trees grow in the same general space. So they have evolved a form that has essentially become a kind of convergent evolution, where they have fires they're dealing with all the time. They have these certain animal pressures and all these different evolutionary things. So one tree is related to all these other big, gigantic cone trees, the coulters and the ghosts and the Tory pines. That's the Jeffrey pine. It has evolved and co-evolved in a space with the ponderosa pine. And now it looks almost exactly like the ponderosa pine.
Wow.
Except if you look deeper under the skin, you can see very clearly they're different. The way I read about this is that the Jeffrey pine and the ponderosa pine, they know the difference between each other, but nobody else can.
Funny.
So they're like, oh, no, I'm not having sex with that tree. That's a Jeffrey pine. No, gross. So what I generally hear people say is that Jeffrey pine has an odor of lemon and vanilla during the growing season, sweet smell like vanilla, pineapple, banana, and or butterscotch.
Wow.
Ponderosa, and this is not necessarily discernible between the different, like now new ponderosa pines, the southern, the Rocky Mountain, and the one, the normal ponderosa pine.
Sure.
They generally smell in these, in these bark crevices, warmed by the sun explicitly, this should be noted, usually has turpentine or lemon rind, but never vanilla, pineapple, or butterscotch.
Okay.
Not vanilla. Same thing with the other ones. In fact, Rocky Mountain, which is Pinus scopulorum, and the southwestern ponderosa pine, Pinus brachypara, they smell like turpentine also.
Are you suggesting that when people argue about what the ponderosa pine smells like, and half of those people say it smells like turpentine, and half of those people say it smells like vanilla and butterscotch, that they are actually smelling two different species?
That's exactly what I'm saying, Alex.
Wow.
There's no overlap.
That's incredible.
Chemically, they are completely different.
Sure.
These oleoresins, they only come out when the branches or when the tree starts to grow a little bit. So like if the tissue gets damaged ever so slightly. Now, as a tree in springtime with lots of moisture is hit with the sun, the cells inside are like, fabulous, let's go. So as a tree builds its rings, it's building a cylinder inside of an existing cylinder. So when wood is getting made under the cambium or under the bark has to expand because it is now being placed, there's now a cylinder growing from inside of it.
Sure.
So it has to ever so slightly tear itself apart. Ever so slightly. So as that
Like stretch
happens,
marks. I think we've used that analogy
precisely, exactly. So as that is happening, in this beautiful, nice, warm, sunshiny space on the side of this tree, you smell in the bark crevice, not the actual bark, because that's not expanding. That's just getting pushed outwards.
Sure.
It's already ripped apart.
Yeah.
In the crevice, in the very crevice,
Get your nose in there.
it's where it's actually happening. It's where all these little bits are actually pulling themselves apart.
Yeah.
So that's why the smell is coming, because there's little teeny tiny micro tears inside of the tissue as the tree is expanding and growing in the springtime. While that is happening, it releases these chemicals.
Yeah.
So one smells different because it is chemically heptane. The other smells different because it's chemically terpenes. Terpenes create turpentine, ponderosa pine. Heptane, Jeffrey pine, because it smells sweet. I guess that's the end of that.
You may. What is that? What is that thing? Healing the great fissure.
I've never heard this before.
It's like some Catholic thing. Like
okay.
these two groups. Like we can heal this fissure of
yeah.
Catholics and bring them to. I think this is what you're gonna do with these
God.
tree smelling people.
I hope so. You guys, I love the passion. But you're gonna need to calm down.
Yeah, stop telling people their opinion is wrong.
Yeah,
as long as it
exactly.
is an opinion.
You can say that, I guess.
Yeah.
This is no longer an opinion. Here's the facts, Jax.
That's amazing, Casey.
So there you go. Argue about it all you want. That's okay with me. Really, it's just they're trying to divide and conquer us, and they've done a good job.
That's right.
Stick to your nose.
This is a class issue, not.
This is, yes. So it's the billionaires, it's the property owners. They're the ones causing the trouble here.
This is the lumpers and the splitters trying to divide us.
They really are.
ironically.
Oh man, but yes, and you know what? The only other tree that grows heptane, produces heptane, is ghost pine.
Okay.
One that it's very closely related to.
Yes,
and
good.
They're termed gasoline trees.
Gasoline trees.
Yeah, which I thought was so good.
I mean, yeah.
Heptane was used in gasoline back before we used lead. Do you remember why we used that? I don't remember. I think we've talked about this before, but essentially, you use leaded gasoline historically because if you just put straight gasoline in your car, certainly your old cars, you'd get a knocking. So if you ever remember like old videos or shows and you have like this car that's like
Yeah.
you hear this knock, it's called that engine knock.
What the fuck?
And that happens. I don't even know specifically why that happened. There's someone else who knows this, but everyone hated it. So they put in other chemicals to reduce the knocking. And they found, if you look at the octane scale, that is 100% heptane fuel that has zero knocking in it. So they realized, okay, we could put this in and it'll reduce the knocking, or you could add a little bit of lead something and it would also do it. Now we figured out a different way. I don't know exactly what we do now.
Those the titular ghosts of the ghost pine trying to get out of your engine.
Totally. They're knocking their way through. Yeah.
I just think nature is so interesting. I need to characterize nature. You know, it's like, all right, I'm going to fill these mountains with trees. This area with historically high rates of forest fires. Fill these trees with this flammable, not even flammable, this explosive liquid.
Yeah.
I just love it.
It's awesome, right?
All right, Casey. Well, we got to give a rating to this Jeffrey pine, or is it the Ponderosa pine?
Oh my God. It's a Jeffrey. I'm telling you, Alex.
Okay.
Trust your nose.
Wait, this file over here says Ponderosa pine.
Oh, no.
What's happening?
I can't deal with this.
It's like Inland Empire. But we got to take a break first. We'll be right back with Inside Sprout. Hi, welcome back to Inside Sprout. That was our discussion of the Jeffrey pine. It is time to give a review to this tree, and here's how it works. We're going to give some final thoughts on it, and then give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden memory orbs of honor. In honor of Amy Poehler. Casey, as our resident expert, we'll begin with you. Amy Poehler was the voice of Joy from Inside Out.
Oh, is that right? Well, that makes sense. All right.
Casey looked very bewildered.
I had no idea what you were talking about. Okay. Here's the thing. I like the Jeffrey pine a lot. I personally love its cones. Jeffrey pine gets very large. Its cones, I mean. And I like a big cone.
Yeah.
When you look at the Jeffrey pine cone, compared to the Tory pine, compared to the Coulter pine, compared to the Ghost pine, you're like, yeah, that totally makes sense.
Interesting.
They're big, huge cones, like easily 8 or 9 inches tall, 5 inches around. I love that about it. I also adore that Jeffrey pine is kind of like sneaky. Like it grows everywhere, but it's unknown. So it's like the look-alike that everyone is like, oh yeah, Ponderosa pine, cool, what's up? And Jeffrey pine's like, yeah, whatever. They're just like,
I'm Brad Pitt's twin brother.
yeah, exactly. But like everyone knows it. If you know it, you know it. If you don't know it, it's a Ponderosa pine kind of thing.
Interesting.
As you said, I think a lot of people are smelling one tree and thinking it's the other tree,
Yeah.
and then making a determination on that.
Sure.
So, as a tree itself, it's I think underplanted. I think we can plant it a lot more all over the place. It's a fabulous tree to have in your landscape. I think it's beautiful. I like that it has blue color. Its leaves just a little bit more blue, and I also like that it gets big, but it kind of stays on the I don't know, the side of the show. It's not the star. Everyone loves Ponderosa, and I think Jeffrey pine's happy for that. It's like, go for it. If you cut into me, I will kill you because he explodes.
Oh, sure.
Get it? Sorry. Yeah, that was another fun
Don't
one.
cut into him with a piece of flint.
Yes, don't do that, right? And honestly, I don't know if it'll explode if you do that,
It will.
but I assume it will.
It's fun to think about.
Exactly. It makes me happy to know that there's some guy like, wow, we're just going to go, well, that's another Ponderosa. It's kind of fun. Just a forest filled with landmines.
It's God's fury for cutting the trees down.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be happy for that. So I think it is biologically and ecologically and evolutionary a really interesting tree. Like we could talk about cryptic species, we could talk about all these other things and serpentine soils. Like it's just one of those trees that to me seems to be like under the radar, but also like the champion of all these different things. Where you're like, wait a second, if we actually look, the winners have always been this tree the whole time. So I think it's just this nice understated tree. But it, like I said, as soon as you look at it, you're like, holy shit. So I'm going to give Jeffrey pine an 8.3.
Wow.
Actually, 8.6.
Oh.
8.6 golden orbs of memory honor.
Great score.
Yeah,
8.6. Lovely.
It's a great tree. Everyone needs to go out and try and find it.
Well, I was going to say, maybe I have seen a Jeffrey pine. Maybe I thought it was a Ponderosa pine.
Honestly, maybe there was a Pinus scopulornum. Who knows?
Could have been anything. Could not even have been a tree.
Alex, you're looking at a telephone pole.
That's one of those power poles they make to look like a tree.
I'm so sorry.
I can't tell the difference. I love everything that we've talked about. I love that it's kind of mistaken identity and that we're potentially going to heal some wounds today.
I hope so. Or just really get them deeper. One of the two.
Make it smell like turpentine and vanilla in
Yeah.
here.
Sorry, everyone.
Jeffrey pine. I do like that it's kind of like ponderosa pine, but just like a fresh take.
Ooh,
It's like
yeah.
my cones are a little bigger, my needles are a little longer, slightly different color. But if you love ponderosa pine, you'll love me.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. It's like the off-brand milk.
Yeah.
Not milk. It's the alternative milk of trees.
Yes. It's like almond milk version of ponderosa pine.
I love that.
Just give me a shot.
Yeah, sorry. Are you allergic to ponderosa pine? Try Jeffrey pine.
Does ponderosa pine give you diarrhea? I probably won't. I'm going to give Jeffrey pine a nice soul 7.25.
7.25.
Feels right.
Yeah, it does. It does. I'm okay with that. I do feel though, Alex, that you really don't hold a lot in your heart for this Jeffrey pine.
I'm fine with it. Casey, it is time for a game.
We have a game today, Alex.
This one is Mood Jar.
Oh, I love Mood Jar.
And the theme song goes like something like what's in the mood jar today? How are you feeling, Casey? Something like that.
Newts are good.
Newts are good. Newts are good.
Get it?
Well,
Get it? 'Cause
no, I don't.
The genus is Newtsia.
Of what?
Of the Mood Jar tree.
Oh, god damn.
Alex,
Sorry.
you forgot why we even did this game in the first place.
My bad. Okay, Casey, here's how it works.
Okay.
I've got a little jar of pieces of paper. On each piece of paper is written a mood. We are going to take turns drawing a piece of paper, reading the mood, and then deciding what tree best represents that mood. This is kind of a micro version of Inside Sprout.
I love that. Okay, sounds great.
And I went back and listened to the mood jar episode to make sure that I didn't repeat any of these moods.
Yeah.
And we even mention an upcoming series that we're going to do.
Wow.
That has to do with that game.
And
this is
nobody
it.
saw that coming.
No.
Jeez.
Happy Inside Sprout, everybody. All right, Casey.
Okay,
I'm going to
first one?
hand this to you.
Okay.
And go ahead and pick a mood. Casey has chosen.
I've actually chosen two.
Oh.
I will use the one in my left hand
Okay.
because I feel like Jeffrey is a left-handed tree.
That's fair. Save the other one for later.
It says, death, you lose.
Oh, sorry, Case.
What the fuck?
That
All
sucks.
right. Looks like I gotta go, you guys.
All right. Well, that was Mood Jar.
That was fun. Really fun. Wow.
I am so glad you drew that one.
That's not even a mood.
Draw the other one.
My mood is death. Did you just throw that in there?
Yeah, just for fun.
All right. You're a fun guy. You're a fun guy. I really was hoping I was gonna open up another one. It's like death. No, seriously, you're dead. You lost. I'm like,
Oh, I got the resurrection card.
Okay. Humiliation.
Oh.
A deep embarrassment or shame caused by a loss of dignity.
Wow.
That's hard.
Embarrassment or shame.
Loss of dignity.
I mean, my only idea is that like there is a tree
Humiliation.
that used to have an identity and then it got lumped
Oh.
with another tree and now it has to be called that other tree.
Wow, that's a good one.
You know, like that's humiliating. Like
Yeah.
I don't even have my own name anymore.
Well, honestly, then I have one for this.
Okay.
That's a really great one.
Cool.
I think that this would be Malus sieversii,
Yes, the apple.
the OG apple from Kazakhstan. Because did you know, Alex, that if you look up Malus sieversii, which is still growing natively in a very particular place in the world, that tree is now considered a synonym. Malus sieversii is the synonym, scientific name, for Malus domestica, which is essentially saying, well, we named this one first, so the other one that's exactly the same has to take that first name as precedence.
Yeah.
Which means the original, the wolf of the species, or the wolf of the thing here, is now being named a dog.
Yeah.
Because we named the dog first.
Wow.
So Malus domestica is now growing out in the middle natively in the wild forests of Kazakhstan. And I think that is quite humiliating. I think it's an insult, frankly.
Yeah, I agree.
The poor tree. Yeah.
Great one, Case. All right, let's see what mood I've selected.
Fabulous. Okay, what do you got?
Triumph. A sense of elation and success following a hard-won victory.
Okay, all right.
Any success stories in the tree world you can think of?
Success stories. A tree, I mean, a tree that comes back from something would be a good one that comes back from the brink.
Sure.
Makes me think of the ye old Pinus monticola. But I don't know if that's like really, doing great. It's the western white pine.
Okay.
It's coming back from its ecological death.
Wow.
But what else?
I mean, there's like, the American chestnut has kind of had a comeback story.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's still not quite there.
It's not to its former glory, certainly.
You might say the walnut.
The walnut.
Period. Because it no longer is known as a killer.
That's true.
Yeah.
We've cleared its name.
Yeah. I wonder if there's another tree that has triumphed over humanity.
Yeah.
Maybe like the tree of heaven, where it's like, no. I'm in control here. You've tried to kill me? Ha ha ha.
You think I'm over here? I'm over here.
Oh my God.
There's more and more of them.
Is Shaggy throwing his voice?
That's a great one. Yeah. Nice.
Cool.
All right, Casey.
Okay, here we go.
Your next mood.
Mood number 3 is gratitude.
Oh.
A deep sense of thankfulness and appreciation.
Well, maybe just because I was just thinking of it, but American chestnut.
Because you grateful for it?
Well, I think the American chestnut's probably grateful.
Oh.
Like I got so fucked up, and you guys are helping me back.
Yeah, that's very fair.
What was a tree that was very, very hyper endemic in Florida? That there's a project to get it growing.
Oh yeah, the Florida Toria.
Yeah.
Actually,
that tree's probably grateful.
I would potentially, but actually, we've got a lot of feedback that Connie, who I took a lot of this information from, not the best resource.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently she's lost quite a bit of favor in the scientific community.
Oh, the Guardian?
Yes, yeah.
Connie's a fraud?
A little bit, and there's no good empirical scientific data to back up what she's saying.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of eat my hat there. Where,
wow.
All the stuff that she is like, yeah, this is evidence points to this. There is no evidence other than her saying probably.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so the podcast regrets the error, everyone.
Wow, what is that in? What is that in wrestling? Where it's like a turn or something like?
Oh,
where the good guy becomes a villain.
Oh, I have no idea. You mean like in WWE? Wrestling? Yeah, something like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
wow.
I've actually been scheming on a way to bring it up somehow in the show and like say maybe do an extra episode or something.
Let's do it. That's such a fun tale.
It is. Well, we'll have to just redo the entire episode. Maybe we'll do a different Toria. We'll do the Californica one.
There you go. I guess I would just want to get in a room with Connie and say, why did you do it?
Why?
Gratitude.
Gratitude. So, you know what I am thinking of? And this actually goes straight to Robin 𝘗𝘪𝘯𝘶𝘴, who just put out a recent book called The Serviceberry.
Okay.
And she talks all about the gratitude and the reciprocity, one of her favorite topics to share with people who comes from her culture, the Ojibwe, and talks about nature and people having different gratitude for what is given and taking the berries because the tree's giving the berries, but you have to give something back. You have to have gratitude for all the things. And so I also think that this should be, I would say the serviceberry easy enough because it's on the docket.
I love it.
But also, I think it's interesting that we can have gratitude with literally any tree that gives us something.
That's a good point, Case.
Yeah. So this is gratitude is really just every tree.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I mean that in the old everyman kind of sense.
I don't want to disregard your sentiment. I think it's beautiful, but we are trying to find a tree that embodies this, not people who embody it toward a tree. If that makes sense.
Serviceberry.
All right.
This game sucks.
All right, last one, Tace.
Okay.
By Tace, I mean Case. Tenderness.
Hey, you're just insulting me out of spite.
It's only because I saw a capital T on tenderness.
All right.
And my brain made a flub. Tenderness, a gentle affection or care, often accompanied by warmth and love.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, tenderness.
I mean, I like the idea that if you look at the tribes of the Pacific Northwest and the Western red cedar, the Western red cedar is like, I got you guys.
I'll take care of you.
Just use me for everything. Love you. I have so much warmth and a gentle affection of care.
I think that's pretty good. Tenderness for the Western red cedar.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I'm thinking the first thing that comes to my mind is like a flowering plant of some kind. Like I don't know, like it has to be small, very beautiful, like very feathery, fine textured flowering tree is what I think.
Interesting.
But I don't know why, or like pillows, maybe like a retussis. It's the fringe trees, Japanese fringe tree.
Cool.
And they just have, in the springtime, a giant canopy that looks like a huge cloud on a stick. Like they're really beautiful in that regard.
Gorgeous.
So I think tender, but
Yeah. I think that works great, Case.
okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
let's use it.
Oh, wonderful. Well, that was the mood jar.
Wow, that feels good. Those are so hard. It's such a different part of my brain, Alex.
I mean, that is almost the entire conceit of this podcast.
Yeah, I guess that is
To
true.
think of trees in different ways.
And really make you think about them.
That's the value I bring.
Hey, that's the value I think everyone wants to get.
Well, Casey, it is time for our completely arbitrary AMA.
That's an Ask Me Anything.
Casey, this week we've got one from Jenna, and if you want to ask a question on the podcast, become a Treemium member and get a bunch of other rewards as well at arbitrarypod.supercast.com. We appreciate all of our supporters, and it really keeps the lights on here at Completely Arbitrary. And Jenna asks, hi, Casey and Alex, longtime listener, first-time question asker.
Hey, good to have ya.
I work at a native plant nursery, and I was doing some research into dogwoods, and 𝘗𝘪𝘯𝘶𝘧𝘧𝘳𝘦𝘺𝘮 was being labeled as 𝘗𝘪𝘯𝘶𝘧𝘳𝘏, and Cornus florida was 𝘫𝘦𝘧𝘗𝘪𝘯𝘶 florida. Have the splitters come along and made things unnecessarily convoluted? Why did they do this to us? Most importantly, can you give the rating of this new taxonomy from 1 to 10 golden cornels of honor? Cornels?
Cornels. Cornel is the fruit of a cornus plant.
Sure. Okay. Thanks so much and Happy New Year.
I love that.
Thanks, Jenna.
Man, okay, so this is an interesting one that I have heard about before. So officially, Cornus florida, back in what 1909, as well as 1839 to some degree, was named initially 𝘫𝘦𝘧𝘗𝘪𝘯𝘶 or 𝘫𝘠𝑚𝑒𝑎 florida. Then someone said, no, this is actually related to the dogwoods. And this was...
What is 𝘫𝘠𝑚𝑒𝑎?
that is just a different genus. It's the same tree. It's the tree that we know of as the eastern flowering dogwood, but it had a different scientific name. So then everyone took a look at it, and they said, no, this is actually just another species of dogwood.
Okay.
This should be in Cornus.
I see.
So they put it in Cornus. So that they did with everything else, and there are a lot of different variations in Cornus. What?
Can I just say... I just want to say something really fast.
Did I say something silly?
No.
No.
Cornus, I hardly know us. That's all. Continue.
Very well done. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that.
I was making
addition.
myself laugh, and I couldn't hide it from
I
Casey.
needed to tell people why.
I just think it's a funny inversion on the trope.
That is a funny version of the trope. I like that.
Cornus, I hardly know us.
Alex is so proud of
I'm
himself
probably
right now.
going to start using that.
I think you should every time we say Cornus.
That's so funny. All right.
So, the dogwoods, specifically, the very first one I think is Cornus moss. I think that, maybe Cornus moss or Cornus alba. One of these is the initial type species for this. No, that's not even the right one. Regardless, it's a complicated genus.
I can tell.
So it's complicated because they grow in a lot of weird ways. Some have those big bracts with the little flower heads in the middle.
That's right. They're not actually flowers.
Exactly. They look like it. That's the dogwoods. Cool. But then there are other dogwoods, Cornus moss, which is the cornelian cherry dogwood. Then say the pagoda dogwood, which is from East Asia. Their flowers look very different, but really they're exactly the same, just set up differently. So on the dogwood that we know and love, the Cornus florida, which used to be the 𝘫𝘠𝑚𝑒𝑎 florida.
Sure. That's the eastern flowering dogwood?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So that has like a quarter-sized flower head with a bunch of individual flowers really tightly packed. Then it has 4 big bracts that come out that are usually white or pink with a notch at the tip.
It's a, what is that called, Case? Like a congregation or
an aggregate.
An aggregate.
Yes, yes. So it would be an inflorescence,
that's right.
technically speaking. But really, everyone just calls it the dogwood flower.
Cool.
Because it looks like a flower, but it's a trick.
Yeah.
So the Cornus moss, Cornelian cherry dogwood, has 0 bracts, and it has 2 opposite buds that come out. They look like little crab eyes, I think.
Interesting.
Like little like balls on the top of the sticks.
Yeah. Little crustacean eyes.
Exactly.
Fun.
So then they open themselves up, and they have a very tightly packed cluster of flowers.
Okay.
Just the same as the Eastern flowering dogwood, but no bracts, and they're a little bit smaller clusters.
Okay.
Then you look at the pagoda dogwood. That is a giant one that grows up. Cornus controversa is the scientific name for this. And it grows up, and it has these flower heads that instead of being super tightly packed together, they're just widely spaced. They are about maybe 4, 5, 6 inches across with a bunch of individual flowers that then become individual berries. So they look, for all intents and purposes, quite different from each other. And Cornus sericea, the red osier dogwood of the questioner's specific note, that species also has these wide open kind of big flower heads. They still have oppositely arranged leaves. A few of them have alternately arranged leaves. So you're like, okay.
How do we know that they're all dogwood?
How do we know that they're all dogwoods? This is exactly right.
Okay.
They go down to the flower structure really intensely. So it all goes down to the flower structure, but some people would say, but we should also look at the form of the plant. We should look at if it's a tree, if it's not a tree, are the leaves opposite or alternate? So they're trying to take in other things into consideration. There's another species of dogwood called the bunchberry, which grows natively out here in the West, and it is maybe about 4 inches tall. It's a little herb. It has the beautiful leaves that you expect of a dogwood, but its flowers are very tiny, and they have 4 little bracts that come out. So they look like an Eastern flowering dogwood, but instead of a tree, made into a little herb.
Cute.
It's adorable.
Eastern flowering dogwood, but make it herb.
But make it herb? Oh, yeah, that's what I want.
Get to work, designers.
So everyone is like, okay, these are so different. We should probably put them into different genre. So they're going back to these old names and saying, okay, this has got to be a different species. So we're going to go back before it was named Cornus florida. We're going to go back to when it was Benthamia florida. So they're basically saying if we're going to split them up, we have to look to see if someone already split these up and give them precedence for the name. Okay. So no one's doing this brand new. Sometimes it's been done brand new, but in this case, they are essentially going back to an old version.
Okay.
So some people have done this. Some people have not. Some people have said that is ridiculous. That your decision to arbitrarily cut the line right here and say this is a different genre because it grows a different way is not consistent with most likely 2 things. One, we're looking at the flowers and the sexual parts. That is what tells you if it is related or not. So if the flowers are all very consistent, but they're just set up in slightly different ways, they have slightly different fruit, then that makes it under the same genus, but different species.
Okay.
So great, that one grows 4 inches tall, and that one's a tree. Though everything else looks pretty similar, we're gonna separate these 2 out because they grow differently and they probably don't interbreed. So that's how you start to get your species. So when you go to the genus level and you go to split these other things up, they are kind of arbitrarily choosing what they think is important enough to split it away from something else. So it's a lumper and a splitter deciding, oh, we should go in and just completely destroy this thing because they think it's more accurate.
Sure.
But the other thing is that they are probably, some of them, many of them, paying attention to genetics, and they're looking at the same things that we've talked about with like the ponderosa pine split, where they say, okay, what are the genes of these things? How are they related? And are they monophyletic in terms of being one big tree branch that comes out and splits? Or are they polyphyletic, which means there are 2 different branches of 2 different trees, 2 different twigs on one big branch? They are not closely related. So essentially you have these things that we have lumped together, but evolutionarily speaking, they come from different places. So then that's a good reason to split them up, but I still wouldn't say into a genus. I think they should still be species. Anyway, it's complicated, Alex.
I still don't get it.
Well,
That's okay. I'm going to listen to this episode again when I edit it.
No, and then add in your own version or your own like, oh yeah, okay, I see.
Let me dumb this down for you guys.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
This also sounds like a class issue. We got the suits in DC making etymological decisions for the rest of us. They don't know how our lives run.
They don't know it. They don't know anything about it.
They don't know that Jenna works at a native plant nursery.
No one knows that.
What a confusing mess.
It is. It's a confusing mess, Alex. And the thing about it is that at the end of the day, it doesn't change anything. It's like the moon. The moon, it's like Pluto, Alex. Pluto.
The dog?
No, the god.
Oh.
No, this is Pluto, the exoplanet, the not actual planet that
come
used a planet
on.
was a planet.
Give it its rightful place
This
in
is
the
thing.
pantheon.
If you talk about if you go to an astronomer, they'd say, well, its rightful place is not a planet. Yeah. Why is it not a planet? For some arbitrary decision maker's decision that this is no longer a planet. We make the rules. So if we decide to change something or add something together, it is not really affecting the reality that's in front of us.
Sure.
It just affects how we organize that reality for no apparent really helpful reason.
Everything's made up.
Yeah. So if this is something that's like, hey, we're going to figure out this genetic mess because it will help us learn more about this plant, fine. But if they say, well, actually, we just think these look different and they act different, so we're going to like split them up for no good specific reason. I'm like, no, they're already different species. You don't need to go deeper.
Yeah.
I'm sure you loved writing your big paper on it and getting it published, but
You're just looking for something to do.
yeah, I've had this conversation with August before, and we are on different sides of this.
Oh.
Because I am more of a lumper, and he is more of a splitter.
Okay.
And I also find these things to be arbitrary and capricious sometimes.
When you're lumping, you're not really, I mean, you could lump two things into the same genus. They can still have species names.
Yes, exactly.
They can still have their own binomial names.
Yeah, and for the ponderosa pine,
Epithets.
I'm like, okay, we can do this. Yeah, no, exactly. I'm like, okay, I think that's fair to do this with these, with the ponderosa pine. They've done a lot of research and they've figured out some things.
Sure.
And they can show there are these morphological differences. But with these other ones, they're already separated. We're just separating more for no apparent reason. So Pluto is still doing the thing that Pluto's always done, but now we don't include it on our mobiles when we make a little thing. And so it's like, well, that was just what changed? Nothing changed. We just decided technically, yet we are what make the technicalities.
Pluto was always my favorite.
Yeah, because it was the outcast.
Yeah. One time I had this very clear memory of my elementary school. View Acres, shout out.
Oh, what's up?
Go Vikings. It's a weird name to choose for an elementary school. Anyway, so we had to make planets, you know, and then they hung them all the fourth grade classes or whatever. They hung all these planets in the library.
Yeah.
And I came in and I very innocently was like looking up at all the planets and I was like, there's so many Uranuses. And the librarian was like, you watch that mouth. You know, she was like, don't catch me hearing you talk like that. And I was like so humiliated and like embarrassed and like scared. I was like, what did I say?
Yeah, you had no idea that there's like a pun with that.
Yeah, I was like 8 years old. Get off my back.
I'm talking about I'm looking up at the planets. Like, I'm not making a joke looking at a bunch of butts. Get out of here, lady.
Thank you so much, Jenna, for your question. If you've got a question for us, like I said, become a Premium member. arbitrarypod.supercast.com. You can also go to arbitrarypod.com and just check out what we have going on there. We have our homepage. You can see Casey's and my face and go, oh, that's what they look like? We have...
Yeah, now you get to decide who's who.
That's right, yeah. We have some information on the Cone Club, which is part of our Premium membership, where you get a new, unique sticker of a conifer cone beautifully illustrated by a different artist every month. It's incredible. It's probably the best thing to ever exist.
I think so. Yeah,
okay.
I was going to say don't even shy away from it.
Okay,
100% is the best thing.
Okay, the best thing to ever exist. We have, of course, episodes of our podcast there, all of them with show notes. We have a merch store where you can get a t-shirt or a tote or a hat or stickers or patches or all the above, we have our recommended books, which takes you to an Amazon storefront where you can browse all the books that Casey and I recommend on trees and either buy them from Amazon. We get a little bit of a kickback, or go to your local independent bookshop, which is also great. And when we have, what else do we have? We have an about section. Go read our bio. Why not? Spend a little time with us.
Yeah, really, it's pleasant. You can get it all. You can get everything you need there.
Arbortrarypod.com and arbortrarypod.supercast.com to support the podcast. Casey Clapp!
Alex Crowson, what does it smell like to you?
In here? I smell nothing.
Good.
What does it smell like to you in here? I'm always worried about my house smell.
Well, it doesn't smell like ponderosa pine or a Jeffrey pine.
That's good.
So, nothing.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Inside Sprout. Hey, we'll see you next week. And since we've been given these teasers, let's go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, next week is sadness.
Oh.
Only 2 more episodes to go, everybody.
Yep, we should put sadness at the end. That way everyone could be sad that it was over.
That's a good point.
Sorry.
But we chose to end on a high note with joy.
Exactly.
So we will see you then. Thanks for listening, everyone. See ya.
Bye. Completely Arbortrary is hosted by Casey Clapp and Alex Crowson.
Our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals, and our artwork is by Jillian Barthold.
To support the podcast and get rewards in return, become a Treemium member at arbortrarypod.supercast.com.
Thanks for listening.